All right, so we are going to go over my own emotional trauma healing, generational healing scan. And I wanted to show you guys the raw data here so that you can see what it actually looks like and how I can use my experience to kind of explain and interpret what it is. Because as you guys may know, everyone that looks at bioresonance scans are going to see things through a different lens based on their background, their education, their experience. And, after using it for over 5 years, the way I looked at things 5 years ago is very different than the way I look at things now. So, coming from somebody who's taken and gotten so much education, so many certifications, so much self training, so much self practice and inner work throughout the last, gosh, really like 15 years of my life. I became a counselor, a therapist when I was 24, 25, and had been in that field even prior to getting sick. So I bring a unique set of eyes to understanding this data, as everyone will that is using this type of technology. And my wonderful colleague that I partnered with to run these scans also has a lot of education, a lot of self experience. She has created the scan on her own. And so, there's always updates and tweaking that we can do with this as well, which I'm really excited about because it kind of depends on the type of questions that you ask the technology and also the types of filters and things like that that you use. So right up top, you can see the amplification level is a 10. Now, the amplification level is going to be 1 through 14. The closer it is to 14, the more these are going to be deep-rooted, chronic, generational patterns that are not as acute. So my amplification level is a 10, meaning it's not really surface level. I've obviously been doing a lot of inner work for the last at least 3.5 years, really deeply. And before that, even like I said, more like 10 years, even before that. So, not surprised to see it leaning towards the deep seated chronic, because I feel like I've reversed and been able to accomplish most of the acute stuff. So let's look at the first thing that's coming up, divine purpose. That already sounds really deep, right? And it's a negative statement. Life doesn't make any sense. So, this reflects a very deep sense of existential confusion and disconnection from purpose. And it's interesting that this is coming up first for me because, I feel like in the last couple years, I have really found that purpose, that passion. I always wanted to help people. I'm an oldest child. I'm a Virgo. My family really struggled with alcoholism, and I always wanted to help people live their best lives. And when I see something like this, it caused me to sit and think, like, where do I think this is coming from? And I think it also may also stem from, the feeling very lost. I used to talk about that all the time when I was younger. I feel lost. I love feeling lost. I always was wanting to travel, and I used a lot of drugs and alcohol, and never really felt like I knew who I was. Definitely questioned the direction I was going in my life. Lots of unresolved trauma at that time. But I feel like this is kind of in the healing. I'm almost 40. I haven't had children yet. I haven't gotten married yet. So it kind of feels like a late bloomer. I feel like a late bloomer in that sense, but I also still feel very young. So when I think of life doesn't make any sense, it's almost like, this isn't the way I thought things were going to go. This path that life has taken me, maybe, um, yeah, I guess I could say doesn't necessarily make any sense. And then the second one, skin rashes. So this is my pretty much number one symptom that I had throughout the entire time I was sick. I only had skin rashes when I went to college for about 6 months, and then when I was 11 years old. So there's been three situations in life where I had these rashes. Now, through the lens of German New Medicine, we know that these are separation conflicts. And when I got them in college, that really makes sense. That was my freshman year, right when I moved and went to college. So I was separated from all of my friends and family for the first time in my life. When I was 11, this is when I had started going to a different school, but it was all the same people. It was just a different building. But I also look at skin rashes as being a separation from the self. So again, this kind of goes back to that original um, life doesn't make any sense. I didn't always feel like I know who I was. I didn't like who I was when I was younger, very frustrated, didn't feel like I could express myself, very uncomfortable in my skin, not, like I said, liking who I was as a child. And it wasn't until around like 24 that I started experimenting with psilocybin and MDMA, where I felt self-love for the first time. And so after, went on to abuse drugs and alcohol for a really long time after that. But right before I got sick, there came that time where I didn't like who I was again. The lifestyle, the partying, and I really wanted out of that. And so illness, skin, not being able to show up as myself, not being able to present myself in society anymore, having to hide, having to go inward, having to be alone with myself. It almost forced me into that cocoon stage where you then start to come out as your true self. Now here it says, frustration about unmet goals. So I feel like this is in that category of um, um, not being able to be truly who I wanted to be. Constantly feeling like I wasn't ready, I wasn't done doing the inner work, I could always be improved, and so not being able to accomplish. When you're healing, you're like constantly thinking, I should be better, I should be through this, and some of the perfectionism there. The next symptom, overweight. So this kind of goes hand in hand with that life doesn't make any sense, not feeling ready, not being able to accomplish something, not loving the skin that I'm in, feeling insecure. So you build up that weight around you. You build up a wall around you. Um, and then belief origin. So suggestion just means that these ideas that are holding me back, the origins of my beliefs about myself, are from authority figures or early life conditioning. So they were not my own, basically. And then feelings creating issues, not following through with your insights. So you guys know that I talk a lot about developing your own intuition. And again, really talking about how important this is for figuring out what is right for you, whether it be something that feels good, setting a boundary, and how I felt like I never really had this. Like I always was kind of afraid. I always felt like I had these guards up. I always felt like I couldn't trust people. I couldn't trust myself. And we can tell by the scan that this actually goes back 5 generations, which is really interesting to think about that 5 generations worth of people in my family have also struggled with this. So it sounds like most people struggled with developing that insight. And I mentioned that there's a lot of alcoholism that goes through both sides of my family. And one of the big hallmark symptoms of alcoholism is denial. So, in denial of what is your truth, in denial about who you are, in denial about how you feel. And so it kind of makes sense that feeling like you don't have insight because you might be masking it. Next, we have a scripture. So this scripture looks like it is physically present and might be related to either me personally or also going through my parents. I won't read the whole thing, but these can be something you can journal on. These can be something you can explore. These can be something you can sit with and read. Then we have an herbal energetic. So CM, this goes back 3 generations. And lemon balm. So lemon balm is known for calming, balancing effects. It supports emotional equilibrium, particularly in times of stress. So at least 3 generations back have needed this, resonates with this, or this support, or those types of themes are being passed down. Interesting next. Feelings of guilt are what's contributing to pain, and through the lens of German new medicine, pain typically, depending on where it is, whether it's the lymph, the muscles, the bone, is a self-devaluation conflict. And so guilt, feeling guilty about yourself, who you are, what you do, is self-devaluation. So that absolutely matches up. Then allergy or intolerance, idea intolerance. So this is really interesting. Maybe means difficulty processing or accepting new perspectives. Maybe being too mental rigidity, having too much rigidity, not being open to new things. And so this is where I really felt like I need to make some changes. I was falling too much in um, the same old. And this is showing up in the physical. So definitely need to make some changes. And this started in vitro, interesting enough. So perfectionism is what I think of with idea intolerance. Like I have to do it this way, it has to be this way, or I failed. That black and white thinking. And then we can see we have here, where's the other one? Where it shows how far back and what side of the generational. So we have another one here. Mother side, a lot of things on the mother side and one on the father side. And these have made epigenetic changes to the lineage, to genes, to how we respond to stress, all of the above. Source of disharmony, job. So this is where I started getting the feeling that I need to make some changes, not necessarily with my business and how I see clients, but well, yeah, definitely not necessarily that I don't like the work that I'm doing, but more so there needs to be some changes. We need to have more systems in place, is how I kind of took this. I do also have other streams of income that I use my therapy license with that I feel like this is more talking about that. So there's that. And just again, taking it as I feel like ready to make changes to some of these things. Next, we have another negative statement. Others will ridicule my insights. So that's another one of those like black and white thinking, perfectionism. I don't want people to know who I am. So my skin issues, the weight, making that boundary, making it impossible. Your subconscious is always going to find a way to fill its need. So if you feel like insecure about yourself, people are going to ridicule me. The skin issues, the weight is the solution. I've heard lots of people say to an alcoholic, the alcohol is not the problem, it's the solution. It's the trauma, the emotional dysregulation that's driving that as the answer. So the skin issue, the weight is not the answer. It's the solution to your subconscious problem of I feel uncomfortable and I don't want people to see me and I don't want people to ridicule me. Positive statements, I am forgiven. So there's a lot of positive statements in here that you can say as affirmations that you can weave into your day, put them on your sticky notes type of thing, sit with them, meditate on them, whatever you'd like with them. But these are imprinted into the tincture that is created if you choose to get that tincture, which is really awesome because all the balancing positive statements, the scripture and all that is going to be in there. Basic belief. So, the belief is basic. It's showing up physically, maybe long standing, maybe with a parent. Community, this is a big theme for me too. So I mentioned, I put up walls. I don't let people in. I have lost most all of the friends that I used to have because I no longer wanted to be in the same lifestyle, in the same situations. I had to figure out who I was, if these people were really my friends, that kind of stuff. Communication, ego statement. So I am always right. Of course, your ego thinks that you are always right because that's its job is to preserve your identity and prove that it is right 100% of the time. So this is also something that's shown up in my life a lot. This is emotional and generational. And, I've had people say this to me again. I'm a Virgo. I love learning. People will say, oh, you don't. I remember my mom said, oh, Amanda's always right once when I was like in my 20s. And I was like, oh, I don't think that I have to be right, but I guess that is true. So I really had to change how I was showing up and presenting information after that to people. It's in the memory field. Let's see, it is 3 generations back in memory field. And then another positive statement, I work smart to get in shape. And this is also physically present. So again, kind of sounds like that perfectionism, I think, like, oh, well, I have to follow this exact perfect diet or this perfect program, which is absolutely how I've been in the past. If I don't do it perfectly, then it's not going to work. Here's another negative statement that really hit home. I will never have enough. So there's a lot of scarcity statements in here. Absolutely been part of my life. I pretty much had absolutely no money, lived paycheck to paycheck, always had 2 or 3 jobs because never felt like I had enough, never had enough, lots of debt because of student loans. And this is something that I've been working through as well with, my business and passion. Circulation. So this is showing up. This is 3 generations back as well. Circulation really, I would say, like, symbolizes the flow of love, abundance, connection, money, some of the themes of the scan. So a block here may reflect difficulty with like giving, receiving these types of energies, which would also make sense. Again, building up walls in front of myself. The chakras, the second chakra is the sacral chakra, which governs creativity, relationships, emotional well-being. Imbalances here could manifest as guilt, lack of inspiration. I used to paint. I stopped painting when I got sick. And emotional detachment, which is absolutely my theme. So the calcium shell, putting up walls. You can see how a lot of these things are connected. Here we have another scripture. I'm willing to let go of the generational issue. Absolutely. Words of affirmation, charming. Bach flower, the star of Bethlehem. So this one is for healing grief, trauma, and emotional loss. So that makes sense. Then we have another scripture. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Key belief, my best is good enough. This one I've already seen show up on other people's, and I think that this is a very common for us perfectionists who tend to be the ones that get sick. I have a YouTube video on the patterns and personality types of people that develop chronic illnesses called PAST, PAST. So you can find that on my YouTube. But the perfectionist type absolutely is at the top of the list. So learning that I don't have to be perfect with things. I can still heal even when just doing my best and finding things in life that give me pleasure and satisfaction. And then constitutional signature. So this one is a one of the homeopathics that we could either do or imprint. Um, so we could either find this homeopathic since it's a constitutional, and um, it can help with shifting the entire constitution. It is used for suppressed emotions, particularly people who suppress anger, resentment, grief, which is absolutely me. I always thought people that were angry or showed anger were dumb and ignorant. And people who couldn't control their anger were immature, and I just thought it was very unattractive. But then it's also used for um, physical indications like skin conditions. Obviously, that's something I experience. Urogenital symptoms like bladder UTIs, nerve sensitivity like neuralgia or pain. And then also, it is believed to help individuals reclaim their self worth and inner harmony, address emotional wounds that manifest psychological and physical. So, absolutely makes sense with what's coming up for me. And it is physically present since childhood. So, the things that this helps support come from childhood. Then we have epigenetic. So, epigenetic energies from biological family, past life karma, affecting the flow of chi. And this is both emotional and generational, and blockages in those meridians. We talked about where it comes from, the different generations. Um, Words to place someone in high place of importance. This is physically present. So, who am I placing in really high importance? Is there somebody's opinion that I find to be the most important opinion? Am I getting all of my worth from someone's opinion? With when I look at this through like an attachment wound lens, am I anxiously attached, dismissive avoidant, or fearful avoidant? I lean towards the fearful avoidant with dismissive tendencies. So, my relationships, whoever I'm in a relationship with, always is giving me my self-worth. If they don't like me, I have no self-worth. And even when I was single, if I couldn't find someone to love me, to prove that I was worthy, then I didn't feel like I had that worth. And then lastly, through the gift and grace, I live in loving, transforming presence of God. So another affirmation. All right, so we're going to look at the physical aspects that resonated. Now, since this is an emotional lens, we are going to look at just the emotional aspect. However, you guys have seen me talk about my connective tissue hypermobility symptoms have worsened since being sick. And through GNM lens, this would be a self-evaluation conflict, which goes hand in hand with what's coming up. But here also talks about the acupuncture meridians of the connective tissue. It's the body-wide communication corresponding with all the meridians and the chi. And also a really great metaphor, which makes sense with what we just talked about, maybe to consider how well you connect and express all aspects of your life. So coming out of that shell, doing things that scare you, showing up and being vulnerable. Part of being on the internet and putting my business on Instagram has been this process. So as I continue to do stuff like this, it helps to heal these parts of me that felt so ashamed of who I was and what I was going through, and embarrassed about the things that I was struggling with, and feeling totally like nobody was going to understand, that nobody else was like this, and I was all alone. Gallbladder. This also helped me make some big decisions in my life. This is involved in new beginnings and decision making. So making really big, scary decisions. Liver is the planner, helping us see where we want to go in life. Gallbladder is decision maker that helps us enable what steps our first steps are. When the gallbladder energy is blocked, we may feel stuck, frustrated, resentful, and angry. Relating to bile, consider the balance between acceptance and bitterness. When you start to feel bitter doing something that you love, absolutely time to change, time to switch it up. You want to feel excited to do this to help people. And that is why I'm making some pretty big changes, or one of the reasons, taking the imprinted tincture, I feel like has really helped work through this and gain clarity on what I want my business to look like and how I want to live my life around my business instead of how am I living to be in this business. And then kidneys, emotional aspect, to extract unwanted substances from the blood and to discriminate between what is harmful and what may be potentially damaging. An imbalance in kidney energy may also represent an inability to recognize what we need to release from our lives. So this sentence right here, this is why I paired the imprinted tincture with some microdosing, because microdosing psilocybin always helps you to see what do you need to release. When I was partying and abusing drugs, there were a few times where I did these macro, either LSD or psilocybin trips, not in a therapeutic setting, but I still got so much benefit from those situations that after actually I ended all three previous relationships after one of those experiences. So it wasn't every single time I used them, I got out of the relationship I was in, but every single time I got out of a relationship was right after that. So it can really help you to see and start to realize, oh, I see what I'm doing. This isn't helpful. This isn't what I want. And I'm going to make some changes. Kidneys also respect the balance of opposites. Issues here may include imbalances with our relationships with others, particularly our primary partner, or imbalances on the masculine feminine energies within ourselves. I tend to be very much in masculine. I've been working on opening these feminine energy channels in myself. Anxiety and fear tend to sit in the kidneys. Also, the ability to respond to change, whether we are able to go with the flow of life or are trying to swim against the tide. So, again, kind of stepping into where can I let it flow? Where can I be less masculine and force things? And then, of course, we have the skin. Skin is where we face the world, how we are seen by the world, how we express ourselves to the world. So, we talked a lot about this, being afraid, being at fear of showing up who I am, not wanting to be vulnerable, massive themes in my entire life. And then the thymus gland is known as a source of chi and healing energy. Let's see, is known as the seat of fire because of its close connection with the heart. So heart-brain coherence is also something I've been practicing. The emotional state of the heart can energize or deplete the thymus gland, which in turn influences the health of the immune system. So I had horrible, horrible heart palpitations from 2021 up until this year that were almost to the point of going to the hospital nonstop as long as I was awake in 2021 for a while. The only thing that helped it was getting frequency specific microcurrent done every week for like 10 weeks. And then it never fully went away, but at least it wasn't constant. And then for the next couple years, it would ebb and flow, sometimes getting worse, sometimes going away totally. So that symptom, is something that I've been practicing with that heart brain coherence and stepping into that nervous system regulation, doing things that help to support the electromagnetic forces of the body, that help to hydrate, that help to produce easy water, like being in nature, like light and grounding and mineral rich structured water. All of those things have been helpful, but nothing fully got rid of those heart palpitations until I got molecular hydrogen. And since then, it's been a lot easier to do some of the heart brain coherent type meditations. So that's pretty much it for the scan. It's super interesting. I absolutely love this technology, and I'm really excited for next year, 2025. You are going, if you sign up for the Healer Revolution Collective program, it is going to be a monthly membership where you are able to get a monthly trauma, emotion, regulated healing belief scan, and you're able to get a monthly imprinted tincture. So that is incredible because you can start to notice so many deep shifts with not just this information, but also with the energetic imprint of the balancing beliefs, the helping to break through some of these generational patterns, the scriptures, like all of that is imprinted into into the formula. So really interesting, really unique. I will post the information about the program in the notes. Not just do you receive the scan and the imprinted and the option of the imprinted tincture, but you also have the 4 groups every week. Well, 4 groups every month, once a week. And also you're going to get a pre-recorded um, video, kind of like I just did for this video, of your results so you can understand them. It's not going to look like this. This is just the raw data. Yours will look much nicer and easier to understand, and it'll be a really clear picture about what the themes are and how you can start to work through these in the groups. When you come, you can ask for specific questions about maybe the results, or you can also ask for support on a specific topic. And in the groups, we will be doing the work. We're going to be doing the somatic release work. We're going to be doing the desensitization. We're going to be finding the beliefs. We're going to be rewiring the beliefs, rewiring the nervous system. And it's just going to be a really awesome hub for emotional trauma healing. So I'm super excited about it.